Okay, how's everybody doing this evening? December 11th, I believe. Probably a little bit earlier in the evening. Actually, they're taking down the street fair here in Carlsbad, California. I'm on State Street in Carlsbad, California. So it's probably a little bit earlier, maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I said I'd make a video every night, so here's my second night in a row making a video. And what I want to talk about tonight is I want to talk about Trump's attack on John Deere. Actually, Trump is trying to bury John Deere. And this is an interesting thing, especially for a person like me, because I grew up in John Deere country. I grew up in Nebraska. And let me tell you, John Deere is about as much of a well-known name in Nebraska as anything you can ever imagine. In fact, it's so ingrained in the culture in Nebraska that I got a kick out of this one obituary that I read. I'm from a small town back in western Nebraska. And actually, I'm from a rural area, but the small town is actually around Scottsbluff, Mitchell, Nebraska. But this gentleman, this guy, I didn't know him, but I kind of knew the name, was familiar with the family. He passes away, and of course, they give, he's a great guy, Christian man, great father, all the great things that he did. And he's got a tractor collection, John Deere tractor collection, his pride and joy. A thing that he did he really enjoyed during the latter part of his life was collecting John Deere tractors, and he had this really nice John Deere tractor collection, probably inherited by the family. So in the obituary, they said that one of his requests for his funeral, were that people wear John Deere green during his funeral. So they asked everybody to wear John Deere green, which was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. But the part of it that was funny to me, to just show you how big John Deere is in the area that I grew up in, they said that anybody that did not want to wear John Deere green, they would have an alternative place for them to sit. So you didn't get to sit with everybody else. You got to kind of sit off to the side if you were wearing something else. And I think they even said if you wanted to wear red, because the two prominent tractor colors back there were John Deere green and, of course, International red, or Case IH, or whatever it ended up being as I grew older. But yeah, so if you didn't want to wear the John Deere green, you got to sit in another place in the funeral because you didn't fit in. So yeah, that's, and I tell you that story just because it's interesting to me. That's how ingrained John Deere is back there in the culture. So when Trump says he's going to attack John Deere by placing a 200% tariff on their tractors or whatever it is that they make, how is this going to affect everybody? This is a big deal, bigger deal than most people realize. And people here, I'm sitting here in Southern California in Carlsbad on State Street. People are just taking down their street fair. They're taking down their little booths. They don't have any idea. I mean, maybe they do, but they have no idea how big a company like John Deere is. Like when you're back in the area that I grew up in, and your dad had nothing but John Deere tractors and equipment. Your grandfather had nothing but John Deere tractors and equipment. Everybody that you knew did nothing but John Deere. Now, here we are in 2025, and now you have a 200% tariff on your John Deere tractors, John Deere equipment. What do? Are you going to just change out your entire line of equipment? And now we're going to just buy new tractors, new equipment, because your tractors usually go with your equipment. So if you have equipment that's set up for John Deere tractors, the couple-o-matics, the hydraulics are set up to fit John Deere. Are you going to go to a different tractor? No, everything's designed for John Deere. So now you're kind of stuck with John Deere. But now you're going to be paying 200% tariff because John Deere made the mistake of saying that they might start making tractors in Mexico. Now, I don't know if they have or not, but just the mere fact that they made that announcement, look how it affects their company now. I mean, now Trump is for all practical reasons, saying we're going to tax you 200%. And look how this affects their entire organization. And not only affects it today, but in the future. For instance, how do you think John Deere stock's doing right now? I haven't looked at it, but I would be willing to guess it's not doing very well. So, and even if John Deere reneges and says, hey, we're not going to build in Mexico, they're still affected. I mean, their company is still being affected by this announcement they made and Trump's reaction to it. So now they're kind of been singled out as somebody that, hey, they're anti-American, they're making things in Mexico now. That's a negative on their company. It's probably a negative on their stock, negative to the shareholders. And it could go on for quite some time. I mean, this could affect a company for years and years to come. And this is not just some small company that just took off here in the early 2000s. This is a company that's been around since the 1800s. I think they had the first plow back in the early days when they were breaking sod. The prairie, they used the John Deere plow was the one that was everybody's, that's what built the company. This has been going on for a long time, this company, for well over 100 years. 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe even longer than that. I'm not sure when they first started selling their plows. But for Trump just to come out and make this declaration that, hey, we're going to put a 200% tariff on them, that is very, very punishing. It's very punitive to a company. And this is what I fear with Donald Trump and his policies. I mean, there'll be a lot of people who will say, hey, that's a great thing. Look at John Deere. Now they've got to back off. They've got to start making things in America. It's going to bring back American jobs. And John Deere is going to have to cave in to Trump's policies. But in the alternative, what this does is it just reinforces Trump's power and what he says that he wants to be for a day, was a dictator. So Trump just goes out and makes this announcement. John Deere's building tractors. They say they're going to build tractors. He doesn't even know if they're going to build tractors. In fact, I think I listened to the press announcement. He didn't even know what they were going to do, if they were going to do it or not. But they made that announcement. He just wanted to make it clear to them that if they did, they're going to get whacked with a 200% tariff, and that's going to negatively affect John Deere for years to come. And it puts a negative effect on their stock, on their company, and everything about what goes on with John Deere. Really negative for a company like that. And really, I mean, it would almost be like, this would be insider trading stuff if this was anybody but Donald Trump. Because this is the kind of thing that if you say stuff like this, especially given his power and what he has the ability to do, that you negatively affect a company to the point where this could be stuff that the Security and Exchange Commission could be very interested in. Because you're negatively affecting a company to the point that people may not, or possibly buy or negatively or short the stock based on news like that. So this is the kind of stuff that people are going to rally around Trump for making decisions like this, because he's a strong man. He's going to bully people into doing what it is he wants them to do. He's going to get a lot of support for stuff like this because people have been told over and over again, jobs are going overseas, and because jobs are going overseas, that's why you can't make a living in this country anymore. That's why we have no jobs. This is why our youth are in trouble. This is why we have drugs in our streets. It's because our companies have sold out and gone overseas, and now you got somebody to blame for it. You got to actually put a picture to it. It's John Deere, because John Deere is reinforcing the Mexican economy, the Mexico economy. In Mexico, they're the ones bringing the drugs in. They're the ones bringing the immigration in. They're the ones that are bringing people in that are illegal. And now we can point right at John Deere and say, hey, you're the problem. You're the focus of this problem. A company that has basically built agriculture over the last 150 years in this country. A company with such incredible loyalty that you can't even have a funeral without suggesting that people wear John Deere green, because that's what the guy that's getting buried wants you to wear. You know, this is the kind of stuff. It's just crazy. And this is the kind of stuff that, I mean, Trump just relishes in this stuff. He loves this kind of stuff. But this is the kind of stuff that really scares me about its Trump administration and what he could possibly do with these kind of accusations or these kind of things, because he's going to get support for this. I mean, John Deere was already getting in a little bit of heat because they're building tractors that nobody can work on. So in other words, John Deere would build these high-tech tractors, and the only way you could get anybody to work on it is you had to hire John Deere. That got very expensive. So farmers couldn't work on their own equipment. Of course, farmers love to work on their own equipment, and now that they can't, that was a big problem. John Deere was getting negative press on that. Now with this, John Deere is really getting hit. But I'm going to tell you, a company like John Deere, that runs deep. That runs real deep. I mean, the people I'm walking around here in Southern California wouldn't know this, but when you grew up in that John Deere country, that John Deere area, you know that those ties go clear back to your grandparents' and great-grandparents' days. And they go back way, all the equipment sitting in the yard, has some attachment to John Deere. I remember when I was farming, we had John Deere equipment. We weren't big. Oh, well, we did have John Deere tractors. We had quite a few John Deere tractors, but our main tractors were Case. But we had John Deere tractors. And we had a lot of John Deere tractors. So yeah, I understand the John Deere loyalty, and they were good tractors. I think some of my favorite tractors were John Deere tractors. I remember running 4020 John Deere tractor, 4520 John Deere tractor. We had an 8650 towards the end of my dad's farming career. We had the old ones too. We had a John Deere G. We had a hay rake on. Ran a lot of John Deere A tractors, John Deere 720s, everything like that. One of my favorite tractors would have been a 4430. One year I spent a whole summer plowing, or actually a whole spring plowing upland with a 4430 John Deere. I really love that tractor, great tractor. So this is the kind of stuff I really worry about with Donald Trump, that he's going to just so affect everything he makes. And then he gets a guy like Elon Musk to get involved, and they're going to really ruin companies by doing stuff like this, by saying that single a company out and say, hey, we're going to slap you with a 200% tariff if you do what you just maybe have planned to do for years, but you just are making these announcements. And they're not any different than any of these other companies. I mean, any company that has shareholders that's trying to maximize profits are going to say, hey, if we can go south to the border, make it cheaper, we're going to investigate that. And maybe we do it, maybe we don't do it. But the fact that Trump signals them out and makes a big issue out of it, and really goes after him for this, I mean, this could be a real negative effect. And this just goes to Trump being a dictator. This is what Trump wants to do. He wants people to react to everything he says, and have everything he says be, the focus of how things go in this country. That's a really worrisome thing, because he's already got those ideas. I mean, nobody would say I want to be dictator for a day if they didn't have intentions to be a strongman and a dictator, like Putin, or like the guy from North Korea. These people, they have those ambitions before they ever even say stuff like that. So Trump definitely is worrisome as far as what he's going to do. And this is going to be a different Trump than he was 4 years ago when he was president in 2016. I think this is going to be an entirely different Trump. And the things he's doing already are very scary, and they're worrisome. And for free people, for democracy, for people, or republic, I guess more of a republic than a democracy, for us to think that we have freedom and we have a lot of things that the people decide, and that people should make their decision. And the way you're supposed to make your decision is that stuff comes out, and then you make the decision whether you want to buy John Deere tractors based on where they're built. If you don't want to buy them because they're in Mexico, that ought to be your choice. It shouldn't be something that is decided by a tariff that makes it so expensive that you can't afford it or can't buy it anymore, because now somebody does something. That's not free trade. That's not letting the marketplace take over. That is artificial, and that's something that's being dictated by one person or one administration, which is the Donald Trump administration. So this stuff is, and he's going to do more and more of this. And of course, Elon Musk is going to be right behind him. They're going to make more and more of these pronouncements and do more things like that. So John Deere is in trouble because Trump decided to go after him. And like I say, I don't know how these farmers will react to this. I mean, will you just all of a sudden quit buying John Deere that you've been buying, your parents and your grandparents and your grandparents' parents have been buying for 150 years? Or do you just ignore it and pay the price, and pay the high prices, and just hope that things get worked out? Now, Trump could be just doing this as effect. He could be doing this just to scare John Deere, so John Deere doesn't do what they're claiming or what they're maybe doing, which is building tractors in Mexico. And if that is the case, it's all the more worse, because maybe he does get them to rethink their ideas and come back to the United States. But at this point, even if they do that, they've still been injured. I mean, they've still been damaged because of what he said. Because now John Deere has that negative stigma associated with him that, hey, you're the company that's wrecking our economy by building things in Mexico, and also wrecking our economy by supporting the Mexico economy, and that's making or producing drugs that are being used in the United States. And then you kind of associated John Deere with Mexico and all the negative things that he says about Mexico all the time. So not good, not a way that you want to get things started out with Donald Trump. Like I say, it should be decided by the people buying those tractors, if they want to support. And of course, a lot of them probably wouldn't. Some of them wouldn't buy John Deere tractors if they knew they were being built someplace else. But if you do, you do. So, I mean, that's something that the marketplace should decide. It shouldn't be decided by Donald Trump and how much. It's funny when he says stuff like this. He doesn't sit down and do the numbers and say, well, we've decided that it's a 33% tariff would be probably a good amount. He just throws it off the top of his head, 200%. He didn't say like, well, we'll do 100% and see how that works, or we'll do 20% and see how that works, see if that gets a little bit of a reaction. No, he just goes right off the bat at 200%. Then he just throws that out. Like I say, this is the kind of stuff anybody else would be in trouble if they were doing, especially if they had some sort of, if they were directors of a company, CEOs, chief financial officers, people that had inside information on the company. If they were saying stuff like this, saying the stuff that, where they were going to, all of a sudden there were going to be tariffs on this product or tariffs on this thing, and that negatively influencing the stock, people would be in trouble for stuff like that. You can't influence the market by saying stuff like, we're going to hit them 200% tariff, and it's going to cause the stock price to go down, or people could short the stock price if they knew this information before Trump actually announced it. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thank you.